Okay. So I really want to kind of do a deeper dive into.
We'll just start with that. I want to dive into P&L. So let's do it. Basics.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I know. I'm with you. I agree with you. I read your mind and I said yes.
What did you? I want to talk about P&Ls. No, say I want to talk about P&Ls.
I know. I just said I know. Let's do it.
You're missing it.
I'm Josh Sigman, and I'm a mortgage lender. I'm also a geek for money, not just earning it and saving it, but literally everything about it. I love that money has rules. It has its truths. I love investment strategies, and I love making money work for us. For so many, money is emotional. For me, it's logical, like a puzzle. My passion is also helping others with their money. I love looking at people's finances, dissecting their puzzle, and rebuilding with strategy and purpose, and I'm really good at it. I'm making this podcast about my money strategies, not the things that are written in books or sold in programs. It's a podcast outlining the lessons I've learned and used for the past 15 years. These strategies help me and those who use them save more, give more, create wealth, and retire early. Let me teach you how to build your net worth. You ready? Welcome to Sigman Sense.
So I want to do a deep dive into really uncovering and talking about P&Ls, which stands for profit and loss.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I've never done one. I've never done a P&L. So where do we begin? And just tell us all that they're not as scary.
No, they're actually super easy
as they think, right? So
they're super easy if you just take it, take a moment to think about it. So easiest thing to do is this can all be accomplished in one page. Obviously there are some businesses that it can't because of the amount of revenue, the amount of expenses, but certainly when you're starting out, it's super easy to do it in one page. And it's similar in some ways to a personal family budget. But you always start with section 1 of a P&L. And section 1 of a P&L is just write down all expenses. So all expenses would include anything from salary expenses, rent expenses, materials expenses, if you're using copy machines or if you're building a product, what it takes to make those products.
I feel like the biggest struggle here is remembering what they all are.
Well, and this is where people think they're doing better than they are.
Correct.
And so, and I know that that's the case because I have people all the time when they get a mortgage from me, they'll say, I made $600,000 last year. And I'm like, the hell you did? You made 50. And there's, what are you talking about? I said, I can see your tax returns. Like you wrote off 550,000. That means that those were expenses. If you were able to write them off, you didn't make 600, you made 50, right? Mm-hmm. And so the point is that you do this monthly, you do it month in and month out. You create the category so you don't forget things.
So the best ways to go is probably, your credit card statements.
And bank statements.
Credit card statements.
Yeah.
And
that hopefully are a separate credit card for your, big tip. Get a single credit card for your business and use a separate bank account for your business as well. So it doesn't commingle in your funds. Right. So you don't think you're making more than you make. Because where you get in a lot of trouble here is you start spending all that money that's showing up in your account because it's revenue. And then we haven't even taken into account taxes yet. So which we'll get into in a second. But section 1 is expenses. Anything that you spend that ties to your business, you can probably write off in large part or most part.
You may ask this or bring it up later, but what about one-time expenses? Is that under section 1 too?
It's an expense. Okay. It's an expense for the month. It's not a recurring expense, but it's
these
aren't
just categories necessarily.
No, but you said the things I forget about. So the first half might be all the categories that are recurring.
Okay.
Right.
And then you can go into
and then you have these one-off expenses. I did a bonus, I bought a gift, those are still business expenses, but it might be one-off for the month. Right.
Okay.
So once you have your section 1 expenses done, now you know what it costs to run your business, right? This is what it costs. And if you do this consistently over time, you get a running average. So you have a better idea to be more strategic about what you want your business to make you if you're going to spend this much money per month in business. You also know what you've got to make just to break even. Right. And that's an important subject is what do I really have to make to just break even before I even get $1 to start paying myself, which is my personal family budget, right? Mm-hmm. The second thing that you look at is Section 2 income. And Section 2 income usually is zero for most people starting off, but it's something to pay attention to long term. And what Section 2 is income that I made without having to work myself. Income I made without me having to work. Well, if you don't have a team or multiple people working for you, you are not making Section 2 income, right? Now,
so is this, what about, so how does side hustles play into this? Is this P&L per business?
It should be.
Should be.
Because you should measure each business health individually.
Okay.
And the business health is the P&L. Is it making money or not?
Okay. So income that I earn that I did not have to do. Let's say it's, I don't know, I just get a check for something every month. So
I'll give examples. In a second. Section 3 would be revenues that were earned that you were tied to. Okay. Revenues that you personally were tied to.
Okay.
Section 4 is just the total. So it's literally 2 plus 3 minus 1 equals 2 plus 3. Section 2, income I didn't have to earn plus income I did earn minus the expenses equals my net income, right? So in basis, if I stopped right there alone, I'd have a better idea month in and month out of what I made and what I kept, because that net income, now you decide what you're going to do with that. Are you going to war chest it or are you going to withdraw it? Okay. Now, if you're war chesting it, it's not being pulled out of the company yet. If done right, you're not paying taxes on that yet. Depending on the corporation, there might be different rules. Different states apply, obviously. But
and war chesting is
leave the money in the company, reinvest in something else.
Reinvesting. Okay.
Yeah. Like just even leaving it in the business bank account because I want to hire somebody in 3 months, right? The other option is withdraw. So this money is now my money. This is a cash cow effect, right? So now I withdraw that money. And for sure it became taxable at this point, right? Because now you withdrew the money from the business, so you're being compensated.
Okay.
Before it gets to you, my hope is that you would set aside 1/3 of that for taxes in a separate tax account, because people think that that's their money. It's not their money yet.
Right.
It's not their money yet. Government gets theirs first. And then you finally, after that, you have 70% of whatever the net income was that you're actually going to be able to put into your personal family budget. Okay. So that is overall.
So in this example, if you're going to withdraw it, do you withdraw it down to zero?
You can do down to zero, or you can keep it in the business. That's the choices. Or am I going to reinvest? Am I going to reinvest?
So you can do like a mix of
absolutely. It's your business, right?
Okay.
So now, what do most people do when they have the ability to spend money?
I mean, let's party.
Yep. So what do you think most people do? They take the money out and they go spend it. They buy shit. So again, to each their own.
So you could have a business checking and a business savings, and you could say, I'm going to take 40% after taxes, or after my 1/3 for taxes. I'm going to take 1/4 of that and I'm going to put it in my business savings account. Right. And then
you never had to take it out of the business savings. You could transfer it, and you didn't have depending on how you set up your corporations for the business, whole different class. Some companies do not require you to withdraw all the money in the year that you accrued it. Some do. Okay. So gotcha. Like, for example, I think Schedule S's require at the end, not Schedule S's. S Corp. Thank you. Yeah. S corporations, I believe, require at the end of every single year, 100% of the earnings are passed through to the partners. So that means that all that money, whatever's left, is going to the partners, whether you like it or not. You're going to pay taxes on it, right? Okay. But the whole point of this little easy conversation is: do you actually write down all your expenses or not in one piece of page? Do you really understand what it costs to run your business in detail? But in reality, you've got a list of expenses somewhere because you're not paying cash. Right. And it's the same reason why people don't do personal family budgets, is they just are lazy, or they don't like numbers, or they're afraid of what it tells them. Yeah, it makes you sick. Makes you sick. So now I'll tell you what the first goal is. Okay. So the first goal of a P&L is make money. Okay. Sounds simple, but it's not rocket science. The first rule of the P&L is we need to have a profit at the end of every month. Okay. So we've got to make more revenue. Is there do you have any rules of thumb, like what you should be shooting for your first? No, don't go broke. You can't go broke making a profit.
Just
so the first, literally, this is the simplest way to think about I just started a business. Step one, like your business will be out of business if it doesn't pay for itself, or you'll be funding it from your retirement or daddy's money indefinitely, and that will end eventually, right?
So make money.
So rule of first goal, make sure all expenses are covered by the revenue. Okay, that's the first goal. Okay. The second goal is, as you move forward now, you have to figure out what it is that the income is for you to sustain yourself, right? Okay. So now there's not a rule of thumb. It's, some of us can live off $2,000. Like I remember right out of college, $2,500 a month, no problem at all. Yeah, today with 3 kids, big problem.
Not so much.
Right?
Yeah.
So now you're going to create a target of what I want to grow it to. There's 2 ways to grow your income to the target. One is reduce expenses. Second one is increase revenue, right? So which usually comes back to...
Or ideally both, right?
Difficult, yes, ideally both. Difficult to do both as you grow a business, right? Usually your expenses go up as you make more money. But the goal would be for it be an exponential increase in income with a linear increase in expenses. So what I mean by that is a slow and steady increase in expenses with a higher than that growth in your revenues, right? Okay. So as this happens, now we're probably mainly all Section 3 income because we're the ones doing all the heavy lifting and we're making a lot of money. But we're constantly called back into the operations, constantly called back to be the CFO of the P&L. We're constantly doing that stuff, which are marking ups and downs. We have this infrequent or inconsistent revenue stream, right? So now we finally decided to hire people, okay? So let's just use your example. If you want to hire somebody to market for you, you want to hire a salesperson. Mm-hmm. Well, great. Now you're still going to do your stuff. You're still going to have your conversations. You're still going to sell your stuff daily. Mm-hmm. But now you've got another person also selling stuff daily. Well, your expenses are up because you're either paying them a salary or commission or both. Bonuses.
What if they're totally just commission?
It's still an expense.
Still an expense. Right. Because of,
Yeah. So what ends up happening is whatever you end up pay them is an expense, but whatever the revenue is higher than that expense because you're paying a commission of the entire revenue. And so
how are they an expense if you're not paying them? What's coming?
Assuming
we don't have benefits and stuff like that.
They're still a paid person monthly. And so that's got to be reflected. But the revenues on Section 2 outweigh the expenses on Section 1. So easy example. Somebody sells something for me and makes $3,000 of revenue. Okay. And it costs $1,500 for commission. Then I'll have $1,500 in expenses. So you got to pay the commission, but you got $3,000 in revenue. So it's going to net out to I made $1,500, but you got to show it the correct way. Okay. It's still an expense. It's still a revenue stream.
Okay.
Make sense? Mm-hmm. So the next goal here is, I remember very vividly when I was in this stage, is I just wanted to have enough other salespeople, other loan officers at the company to pay for all the expenses so that I could keep 100% of what I did.
Yeah.
That was it. So that was the next goal is have enough revenue sources, Section 2 of activities and people doing things that you don't have to be a part of, but you're getting a stream of income on, and you're not with your personal hours,
right,
to pay the expenses, so that when you are working your personal hours, you're keeping 100% of your stuff, right? That. The last goal would be that the majority of your income is coming from Section 2. Your Section 1 income is a byproduct of the business as a whole, but the majority of the income is coming from Section 2.
So from all your hires, all the
right.
hires.
So now I've got 250 odd employees as a company. My personal production is a third of my income now.
What about employees that are not revenue bringers?
That's a great question. So I hope any employee listens to this one loud and clear. And this really goes back to that conversation about we're all replaceable. We are all replaceable.
So the question was, so he just outlined the goal is to have Section 2, which is income he did not work for, cover all of his Section 1 expenses. So where do the people that are not bringing in revenue,
That's a great question.
Do they go?
They're a expense. I don't care how good they are an expense. And so this is what I want everyone to hear loud and clear. Okay. Everyone at any company is either an asset or liability. Everyone is. Okay. I define it differently than what most do because I think in terms of the money side, right? So when I think in terms of a liability, it is a check I've got to write every month, whether I like to or not, whether we're busy or not. It's a straight liability.
Straight liability. Yeah.
So having a great lady that answers the phone at the front desk, I feel is a necessity of the business. And they could be the best at their job and they could have done it for 10 years for me and they could make a $50,000 salary, whatever they're making. And at the end of the day, there's still a liability, even though they're a great first impression, right?
And so
section 1,
they're all, so they go in
section one. It's just a salary. It's just a salary. And they could be doing their job fabulously.
So the goal is to get off of, don't be a section 1er.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
So what's the asset is people that do their job well, but also help bring revenue in. So why are most salespeople irreplaceable? Not all, but why are most? Because salespeople in general are bringing far more revenue to the company than they are an expense. So if I'm looking at 2 different employees, and let's just say that the market tanks and it's got to lay somebody off, and I've got 2 people doing the same job in my organization, and let's just say they're both processors. So in theory, they're not salespeople; they're processors, right? And they're both doing a fabulous job, and they've both been around for a long time.
And it's a necessity. It's a necessary
let's just say
job.
everything is equal for the 2 of them.
Okay.
Same salary, same everything. Which one would I keep? Is the question. And the answer is that if this one has never ever gotten a referral, sent in a friend or a family member, if this person has done a great job all their time, but has not gotten great surveys that resulted in future business, and this one did do their great job, push the paper, but also brought 2 of their family members or friends into our business, and they got loans, and they introduced us to an agent on the other end of the transaction that could bring future business. Yeah. As a business owner, there is no choice. This person could have been with me for 7 years. This person for 3 years.
Eye-opening too. It's just very eye-opening.
If people that bring revenues to help offset their expense, them as an expense, are more valuable to an organization than people that just do a great job.
So what about how do, I know we already talked a little bit about it, but how do commissioned only people fall into this? So obviously they're not an expense. Yeah.
So this is a great question because what worked in business last year doesn't mean it's the same this year. And so people get hung up on a commission. So as a commission person, I'll just talk to you about what I know about my industry for sure, is that at different times in the industry, there is more revenue per transaction than others. And it's compression, it's market compression, it's competition, it's whatever it is. And this is the same for all industries though. The cost to make the product went up. Steel tariffs are a big issue right now. So it costs more to build a house. It costs more to build a car because steel has gone up, right? So if the steel has gone up and the price has remained the same, the expenses are higher, the profit margin is less. So what might have been a reasonable commission when the profit margin was like this, or what could be justified by an owner to pay, is not necessarily justifiable in the current market conditions, right? So people get hung up on what I'm worth, but they have to understand what is the job worth as well. A lot of these furloughs that have gone permanent, I know a lot of people in the medical industry and insurance industry and medical sales and pharmaceutical sales that were very highly sought after, highly compensated people, right? And they got furloughed, and I know a couple of them that were permanently laid off. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, holy crap, this is like some of the best salespeople in the country. I know some of these people, and they got laid off. Like, why would they be the ones laid off? And the answer was, well, it's really easy. They were the highest paid commissions at the company. And what they figured out was if they hired people to service the existing accounts at a third of the commission.
Well, or put them on salary, right? You could put them on salary.
Or put them on salary, or hire somebody with a lower commission cut to service the same clientele. then those people were viewed as expendable because the market conditions had just changed.
So just because you have a fully commissioned employee on your team or team member on your team, they're not getting paid a salary. They only get paid commission. They do stay on Section 2, or
when the commission is paid, it's out of Section 2. The revenue they bring is still the commission paid as Section 1 expense. Okay. The revenue they bring is Section 2 income.
Got it. That's okay. All right.
Right.
So they're commissioned.
But I think what you're getting at, and this is what I want people to hear loud and clear, is what I see more often than not, and why it doesn't work long term, and why certain businesses are stuck, is because they overpay commission people. Overpay. I'll just use real estate as an example. The value is in the relationship and the lead. So whoever the team owner is that has the relationships and drives the leads should make more. The normal buyer rep situation is a 50-50.
Yeah.
Normally they'll get 50% of the commission and the owner will get 50% of the commission. The problem is the owner didn't do the computation of the expenses. And so when they back out their expenses, paying for the lead generation or whatever, they keep 10%. And the buyer's agent, who had no expenses to pay in bad months, or if they took off or fucked off or whatever, they didn't have any consequences, they still make 50%. So you've got the owner taking the risk and doing the lead generation, making 10 to 15%. And you've got, in a bad month, taking it all on the chin. And then you've got the commission buyer's rep making 50-50. It just is not smart business. It's just not smart business.
Yeah.
There's all the risk with very low reward. So
basically, in that example, they're paying to not have to do the work,
or they think that they're making more money than they are, is what they really,
because they're buying leads that they don't have time to handle.
Yep.
And then they're paying
a lot of money.
I've never thought about it that way before.
That's what they're doing. So you've got these people that are paying $30,000 a month to Zillow or whoever to generate 500 leads they can't handle a month. So and then they've got 5 different buyer's agents. They're all paying 50 or 60 or 70%. And they're paying the $30,000 a month for the Zillow and to keep 10% maybe. Yeah. Bad business. Like, choose to do less loans. I've
never looked at it that way.
That's what it is. But that's the average.
Do less.
Do less and then you make more. Well, I'll give you a great example. And I think that this is a shout out to Kyle. Kyle Handy's a great example and is a fabulous EXP agent. Yes. That's a very close personal friend of mine. Him and Curtis Dixon ran a team for a couple of years. And what they did is they were a boutique shop. Everyone that's ever met them loves them. Yep. All their clients come back to them again and again. I would highly encourage anyone to use them. They're great agents. But they grew this team, 6, 7, 8 people on this team. And they were doing more and more business and their volume was doubling and they were in the green. They were making money, but they were constantly stressed out. And I was coaching them at the time and I said, do a freaking P&L. And finally, Kyle started doing a P&L. And after doing a P&L for less than 6 months or 9 months, they disbanded the team. The entire team.
That was so phenomenal to watch unfold.
Because it was very clear that you'll make more money doing a third of the volume, but keeping it all.
And that goes to, there's just so much feeling that we operate from. And we are so busy. So it feels like we're making lots of money and it feels like we have all these leads coming in. So we must be doing well.
That's not the case.
And it's, wow.
Until you look at it and measure it and understand it and look what the data tells you and make it a non-emotional. And this was really crazy. This is why I'm really proud of Kyle at that time. Kyle is very personable. So he was very close friends with all the people on his team.
Totally, yeah.
But the data told him as a businessman, it was a bad business.
Bad decision.
So it made it an unemotional decision to disband it rather than trudge along for 2 or 3 or 4 more years and doing something that was making other people lots of money, which is great. But ultimately, he was the most stressed out. He had the most risk, and his family wasn't moving forward.
Right.
It just made better sense for being an individual agent.
Space and all these things.
He got rid of the office space. He got rid of he was buying all these leads on the internet. Remember, he was doing all this.
I think what's interesting too is once you have the data, then it makes explaining to everybody that you now have to say, hey, we've had a change of plans. It makes it really easy to explain and understand logically. And so people get it. And they're not, Kyle's a jerk and I got fired. It's like, because he had the data to tell. I mean, it's just very, very, very interesting.
Yep. And that's why I wanted to share a little bit about P&L with everybody, is because
I am so glad we dove into that. I mean, this is the most clear I've ever.
It just do it a couple months in a row.
Yeah.
With any basic business, and it makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
When you start looking at it and you're like, oh shit, I spent more than I made this month, even though I felt like I was doing good.
Right.
Okay, cool. Hey, I did all this work. I was working 8 hours a week, and I literally netted $1,000. Something's got to change.
Something's got to change. Yeah.
Hey, fantastic. I worked 80 hours a week, but it was battle pay because at the end of the month, I crushed it and I made all this money. I can justify that in my head, and I don't have kids, so who cares, right? Who cares? Or, dude, can I keep this pace up? It looks like we're growing. Based on the expense ratio I've got going on and the profitability, I do think I can roll the dice and finally hire somebody.
Right.
How much of this profit would I give up? Here's the key. How much of this profit would I give up to buy my hours back or to create more time to do more dollar productive activity?
Totally.
But it makes it it's great that you're asking me for a $5,000 a month salary. I can afford 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if that's not a good fit for you, it's okay. I'll find somebody else.
That's okay.
It makes it better. No, I will not pay you 60, 70% as a buyer's agent.
Right.
Why? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Let me show you how much I spend on a monthly basis with the transaction coordinator I pay for, with the leads that I'm buying, with the CRM system that's on my dime, with the office expense that I personally pay for, with the training that I provide with my team. This is all the cost it takes to close a deal. Until you close over 5 deals a month, I don't make 50%.
How powerful of a conversation though, because there is a lot of heartache in these conversations, specifically in real estate and with buyer's agents. And often it's, well, everything that I close for my team leader is gravy.
Yep.
That is a very real way to look at it, because, well, they weren't going to close it if I wasn't here because they don't have time to. So this is powerful.
Yep. And then you find out people are on board with your team too, because a great employee also gives a shit that the boss makes money.
We need for the bosses to make money.
If the boss is making money and the business is growing,
right,
it creates stability for everybody.
Correct.
And that's where people don't really understand it. And I think the bosses hide from it too. Like when bosses are losing money, for whatever reason, they don't tell their employees. Well, there's probably some good truth to like scaring the shit out of them, but why would you expect people to act differently and change, their behaviors and results and care about the results if you don't share what's important to you and what is required? Like, all of my entire team knows, this is an easy metrics, right? The absolute peak performance, almost breaking the handlebars number of loans per full-time employee on my team is about 5. Like, we can do 5 deals per employee per month with crazy hours. That is the operational limit. At 2 deals per full-time employee, I have to let somebody go. Like,
bleeding out.
The team knows I'm losing my ass on a monthly basis.
Right.
At 3 loans per full-time employee, the team knows we're in the safe zone. So let's just operate between 3 and 5 deals a month.
Right.
Like, that's a very clear.
And I remember when you were breaking that down and saying like the difference between when you go from 3 down to 2 is
company lose $100,000 a month.
Catastrophic. The upswing though, if you go 3 to 4, it is a huge gain. Exponential. And so then I think too, as employees, it helps us to say, okay, is it worth, like, because we all know what comes along with more production, there's more bonuses, there's trips, all the things that everybody really likes to have. Is it worth it? Is that one, can I suck it up? I know 3 is my comfort, but can I suck it up for 4 for this amount of money? Because if we keep you making money, well, it tends to trickle down.
Yep.
Super interesting.
But you can't have those conversations without transparency, without tracking yourself. And that's why it always comes back to, you got to track your numbers. You got to track it at home. You got to track it at work. That's part of building wealth. If your business.
So if you have how many, I guess it's different for everybody, but if you do your P&Ls and you're in the negative 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, like, is that everybody's different depending on how much personal money you have to float the business?
It comes down to investors and personal money. But here's what I'm very clear about is I've done it before. In fact, I shared it with all the mess ups I've had. there's a point where you're throwing good money after bad. And so up front, like I said, mentally, with this podcast, an example, I know it's a lost leader and I make no money on it. I'm doing it for a year.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for a year. Like mentally, I had the money, the stamina.
Right.
I'm going to do it. I'm not going to think twice about it for an entire year. Then I'm going to reevaluate. But it's the same thing with starting a business. Listen, we're going to give it a good old college try, and this is what we're going to attempt to do, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to lose money for a couple months in a row. But the flip side is, if you're starting that business and the business is going well, and then it turns negative for a couple months, how long do you hang on for it? Hang on before you make a change, making an unemotional decision before it comes up. Like, hey, I could lose money for 3 months, but then I'd have to let somebody go. I could lose some money for 3 months, and then we have to get rid of the office. I could lose money for 3 months, and then I have to do this. But making the decision 3 months ahead of time, like these are the rules of engagement.
And here's the stepping. Here's the ladder steps.
There's a ladder step down, backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Which you've got to do. And this goes back to working on your business, not in your business, for an hour a week. Just to, like, what is the business telling me? Because momentum is real. You've got positive momentum, and it tends to pick up. You've got negative momentum, and it'll eat your business for sure.
Totally.
So, but I hope that helps. I know we got to wrap it up.
Absolutely. No, I think it's awesome. We would love to hear your comments. So if there's anything that you want to share with us as a listener, please do, and make sure that you like and subscribe and tell your friends, and send us emails at sigmansense@gmail.com.
Next time, guys.
Bye.